The USS Voyager is one of the most important Starfleet starships that aren't named Enterprise. It had a long voyage getting from there to here, there being one end of the Delta Quadrant and here being, well, Earth. What happened to the USS Voyager after it finally arrived home from its 7-year sojourn, especially as it was decked out in future technology from an alt timeline Admiral Janeway? Well, let's take a look. Spoiler warning, this will contain spoilers for Star Trek Lower Decks' first episode of Season 4. As such, you have been warned. If you've not watched this episode, turn away now. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack, and before we do get into this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a Star Trek video in terms of news, lore, and more. As always, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Okay, engage. Voyager returned to Starfleet territory in 2378 after a 7-year-long journey through the Delta Quadrant. During its final mission in trying to come home, Voyager would face up against a Borg collective, trying to utilise their transport hub complex to shorten the time it would take to reach home. Thanks to the help of an alt-timeline future Admiral Janeway, Voyager would be prepared for the collective, and would equip highly advanced future technology including ablative armor generators, which essentially put a secondary hull over the top of its primary hull, and transphasic torpedoes, which could destroy Borg cubes in a single hit. Yeah, talk about overpowered. Over the next 3 years, the USS Voyager would be decommissioned and poured over for its new technology, which would be reverse engineered and put into new ships of the fleet. Scans from the USS Voyager, as well as Voyager's own attempts at quantum slipstream drives, would be installed in a new Dauntless-class starship, which the now Admiral Janeway herself would captain the first starship of the class, the USS Dauntless, whose whole design would come from the fake Dauntless the USS Voyager encountered in 2374. This class of ship would be active in the 2380s, specifically by the year of 2384. Other technologies from the USS Voyager were going to the new Lamar-class starships, which the USS Voyager A would be a member of. The Voyager A would seemingly be constructed at Utopia Planitia before the shipyards would be destroyed in 2385. The Voyager A would also be captained by now Admiral Janeway, but that is a story for another time, and whenever we actually see Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. Hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy, everyone! The decommissioning process of the USS Voyager, no bloody A, B or J, would take some time and would take roughly 3 years. The ship would remain active as a starship, able to process with a minimal crew for at least warp travel. Whether the ship still maintained an active weapon system, ablative armor, or transphasic torpedoes is not known. Presumably after this had happened, maybe the Starfleet Engineering Corps of Engineers by maybe the Starfleet Corps of Engineers, the vessel would be transported to the Poleo system, where Voyagelian Beja Tweakle, who worked as a Federation curator and historian, would work on outfitting the ship as a museum ship. This would include installing holo emitters across the entire ship, creating animatronic Warp 10 salamanders, putting up mannequins of the crew, and generally setting up exhibits detailing the various missions, incidents, and wild situations the USS Voyager was involved in during its 7-year-long voyage. This did indeed include an extra exhibit on Deck 7 about the time Neelix's cheese caused the ship to get a cold.
I know all about the Neelix cheese. There's a whole display for it on Deck 7. Don't open panels!
In 2381, this work will be finished, with the USS Ritos being tasked with escorting the ship to Earth to the Presidium, located at Starfleet Academy and Starfleet Command, where it would land and allow visitors to explore the living museum of Voyager. During her captain's log, Captain Freeman of the USS Ritos would say that after the ship had spent some time at Starfleet Academy, it would be moved to orbit permanently, but we don't know if it was so permanent as it would move from the orbit to the Fleet Museum sometime in the next 20 years. During the Ritos' mission to escort Voyager, an away team was stationed on the ship where they discovered a dormant macrovirus between the bulkheads of the bridge. The macrovirus was a large version of a virus which was encountered by the USS Voyager at a Garan mining planet in 2373. The virus would bypass the biofilters of the ship's transporter and would infect the ship. It would evolve and grow in size, as it infected the entire starship. It was eventually defeated through the wits and skill of both the EMH and Captain Janeway. The newly uncovered macrovirus on the museum ship Voyager would activate the holo emitters across the ship, and cause random characters from various holo programs in Voyager's library to activate. This would include Michael Sullivan from the holodeck program Paris 042, the clown from the Cole virtual reality holoprogram Situation, and Dr. Chakotay from the holonovel The Adventures of Captain Proton. Wild, am I right? This rogue macrovirus would then merge with some leftover Borg nanites to create a macro Borg nanite, which would attempt to take over the ship, assume control of the rogue holo characters previously created, and would capture a crew left aboard the ship and steer the ship towards the closest Borg cube. The machinations of this macro nano would be foiled by Ensign Bradford Boimler and Ensign Samantha Rutherford, who would utilize both charisma against Dr. Chaotica by pretending to be the son of Captain Proton and a cult gun of a Neelix cheese to defeat the hollow characters, disable the ship, and prevent the Borg from gaining Voyager once and for all. The ship would be repaired along with its exhibits, and would take its place at the Presidio at Starfleet Command and welcome museum goers shortly thereafter. However, the museum ship would not just be restored, but a new exhibit would be created to celebrate the ensigns of Bradford Boimler and Samantha Rutherford, who added another weird adventure to the long list in the USS Voyager's history by saving the day.
Voyager is a museum on the grounds of the Presidio. On a clear morning, you can see Alcatraz from here. You made it back to Earth.
However, this wasn't actually the first time the Voyager became a museum ship, and was sat on the Presidio on Earth, though technically it was in the future, but time travel is weird. In an alternate timeline, Voyager did not go through the nebula which has the Borg Transwarp Hub complex, and instead returned to Earth in the year of 2394. The ship was decommissioned, as we know from the Prime timeline, and also turned into a museum, but will be sat as a museum ship at the Presidio even 10 years later by 2404, instead of being shortly housed at the Presidio and then moved to Earth's orbit, and then eventually moved to the Fleet Museum at Antham Prime. And yes, Voyager would eventually find its way to the Starfleet Ship Museum at Antham Prime by the turn of the 25th century. Sometime around the year of 2401, the USS Voyager would be assigned a berth at the museum over Antham Prime, which was run by Commodore Geordi LaForge. Voyager had earned its place as a legacy starship. Other ships docked at the official ship museum of Starfleet were the surviving Enterprises, NX-01, A, D, and possibly the E and F as well. Check out other videos on whether the Enterprise E or the F were at Antham Prime for more on what we say is possible.
The USS Voyager. She made her name farther out than any of those other relics had ever gone. I was reborn there.
Not only were the Enterprise's docked to its station, but other famous ships with Starfleet's history, such as the USS Defiant, USS Excelsior, and USS Stargazer, among many others, were present at the Fleet Museum. There are even some other ships, such as the HMS Bounty, the stolen Klingon bird of prey Kirk and co used to save the whales, as well as Kronos 1 and a Romulan bird of prey. It's said that Kronos 1 was on loan to Starfleet Ship Museum for its role in the Klingon-Federation relations. This is to say, Antham Prime may have not been the last location of the USS Voyager. As we know, it was moved from Earth to Antham Prime. It could find its way to other ship museums or locations. It could even be on loan to other states, such as maybe even a Klingon, so being the place where Muriel Paris, aka the Kuvma, was born. Maybe even an interactive exhibit around Deep Space Nine, where Voyager first started its journey so many years ago. But that is it, so far, the story of what happened to the USS Voyager after it returned home from its arduous 7-year journey. Who knows, we may have the return of a Borg Queen again, and have the crew of the USS Voyager taking it from a Fleet Museum, just like the Enterprise D crew did in Star Trek Picard. There are still a lot of stories to tell about Voyager with the USS Voyager A in Star Trek Prodigy. Hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy, and then of course the Voyager B teased in Star Trek Picard Season 3. We may even get to see the Pathfinder-class vessel if we ever get the Star Trek Legacy series. And with that, we may even get some Voyager with the J in Star Trek Discovery's final season coming early next year. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.